So we have already discussed little bit of this chapter. Have you gone through at home? I asked you to just go through at home. Have you gone through the ebook I have provided?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I will just give a brief of what we taught in the last class. Okay. And one more thing, from next class onwards, since from today regular classes are starting, from next class onwards, I will not share any links. Okay, you join the same link, or also you can find the link in that zoology theory section A group description box. You can find it there, or you can save the link that I shared today, and you can join accordingly whenever I have class. Okay, if I don't take class, I will just let you know. Otherwise, if I take class, if I take class, I won't share the link always. You join the link whenever I have class. Join the same links. Link will be the same. Okay.
Um,
Okay, we'll just go through what we have discussed last two classes. Okay, so the chapter was excretory products under elimination. So excretion, we have learned about excretion. This is the removal of waste products. So the main waste products are nitrogenous waste. There are water, drugs, and pigments, and various other things. The most important is the nitrogenous waste, and in this chapter, we will look at the nitrogenous waste. And the next was formation of nitrogenous waste. Then it was of two sources was there: external source and the internal source. External source was the proteins from the food which we take, the protein part of the food, and the internal source was the already existing internal proteins and amino acids, right? So it was easy. Then the types of nitrogenous waste, there were three types of nitrogenous waste. One was ammonia, urea, and uric acid. Ammonia is the highly toxic, then uric acid is the least toxic. Okay, since there are various organisms present there, so certain organisms excrete certain nitrogenous waste only. Not all organisms excrete ammonia, or not all organisms excrete urea. It's not like that. So there are the organisms, they are grouped into different categories. For example, monotelic organisms are there, ureotelic organisms are there, and uricotelic organisms are there. So monotelic organisms are organisms which excrete ammonia. Same way, ureotelic are organisms which excrete urea. Can you tell me an example of ureotelic organism? Can you give me an example of ureotelic organism? We already taught in the last two classes. An example of ureotelic organism. Please speak up. Please unmute yourself and talk. What was an example of ureotelic organism? It was very easy. I repeated it like 10 times last class. What was it?
and
Huh?
Bird,
and
bird,
No, not bird. Huh? Bird. Okay, bird, bird.
human.
Yes, humans, bird. Okay, bird, humans. Okay. Uh, so urotelics are organisms. Basically, they are terrestrial, and monotelic organisms are aquatic. Okay. Uricotelic example was lizard and all. Okay.
Lizards.
Yes, we will learn about each of these in detail. Okay. Uh, and ammonotelism was the process by which ammonia is excreted. Okay. Then we learned about the process by which ammonia is formed. The process by which ammonia is formed is what? It is known as oxidative deamination of amino acid. So the process by which ammonia is formed in our body is known as oxidative deamination of amino acid. So this is the structure of amino acid, and this is the amino group. When this amino group separates from the amino acid, the rest is known as the organic acid. Already taught in the last class. This is the organic acid. Organic acid will be stored in the body in the form of carbohydrates. Then this amino group, they will take up one hydrogen and will form ammonia. So this is how ammonia is formed in our body. Right? This all is taught in the last class, right? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So the properties of ammonia are it is highly toxic and it is highly soluble in water, and it requires a large amount of water to get excreted. For example, 1 gram of ammonia, it requires almost half a liter of water. So the terrestrial organisms, they cannot lose that much of water. Therefore, the aquatic organisms are ammonotelic. Means they can excrete ammonia. Only the aquatic organisms. Aquatic means living in the water. Only the organisms that are living in the water, they can excrete ammonia. And those organisms are known as ammonotelic organisms. Okay. So examples were amoeba, hydra, planaria, earthworms, tadpole, salamander, and bony fishes. Okay. So this is up to here. I guess it is taught in the last class up to ammonotelic. So today we will start with ureotelism. The next type of uh, nitrogenous waste is urea. Okay. So what is ureotelism? So ureotelism, it is the process. So today we'll start with ureotelism. Okay. Last other things we already discussed in the last classes. I took 2 class, I guess. And yes, you can give your roll numbers in your chat box. Okay. Please text your roll number chat. You give a message in the chat box. You can give your roll numbers. I'll take the attendance from there. Post your uh, enrollment number or your roll number, whatever it is, in the chat box. Okay. So ureotelism. Listen it very carefully. Okay. So the next type of nitrogenous waste, it is urea. And ureotelism, it is the process by which urea is excreted. Okay. Ureotelism is the process by which urea is excreted. Same as ammonotelism. Ammonotelism was the process by which ammonia is excreted. Same way, ureotelism is the process by which urea is excreted. And so there the nitrogenous waste is urea. This is the formula for urea. You can write it down. You can write this down. Note it down. So this is the formula for urea. So the organisms which excrete urea are known as ureotelic. Organisms are known as ureotelic. Process is known as ureotelism, and the nitrogenous waste is urea. Clear? So now, so ureotelism, the term it is given when excretory material or the excreted nitrogenous waste, it is urea, and such organisms are known as ureotelic. Okay. Next, so when ammonia gets excreted, the process is known as ammonotelism, and the organisms which excrete ammonia are known as ammonotelic. Here the process is known as ureotelism and organisms are known as ureotelic. Nitrogenous waste is urea. It is simple. So now what are the advantages of excreting urea over ammonia? What are the advantages of excreting urea over ammonia? So here you can see the advantages are, so now let's talk about first how urea excretion is a better option than ammonia for organisms which are terrestrial or cannot afford to lose such that much of water, because we have already seen that during the excretion of ammonia the quantity of water required to excrete ammonia is very high, right? What was the measurement? 1 gram of ammonia requires almost 300 to 500 ml, almost half a liter, yes, of water to excrete. So therefore urea it requires less. So here you can see first is less toxic as compared to ammonia. So we have already discussed, right? The most toxic uh, what to say, nitrogenous waste, the most toxic nitrogenous waste was ammonia. So now urea it is less toxic. How much less toxic? You can see here 1 lakh times less toxic. It is not like 1 or 2 times less toxic. It is 1 lakh times less toxic than ammonia. So ammonia, it is pretty much less toxic than ammonia. Urea is. Okay. So urea is very less toxic than ammonia. Then, and since it is less toxic, we have discussed in the case of ammonia that since it is very toxic, so it has to be eliminated from the, eliminated means it has to be removed from the body as soon as it is formed, right? So ammonia, as soon as it is formed, it has to be removed from the body, because why?
It is highly toxic.
It is highly toxic, and it since it is highly toxic, it cannot be stored in the body for long, because it will cause ill effects in the tissues and everything, right? It will cause harm in our body since it is very toxic. Therefore it has to be eliminated as soon as it is formed. But in the case of urea, since you have seen, it is like 1 lakh times less toxic, therefore it can be stored in the body for a longer period of time. It is not like as soon as it is formed, it need not be removed. For example, you can take the example of human beings. You don't go for urination like every minute, right? In a day, like 2 3 times, 2 3 4 times,
Yes, ma'am.
depending on the your water intake. So but urea, it is produced non-stop. It is produced every minute, but you can store in your body. Therefore that means uh, urea, since it is less toxic, it can be stored in the body for longer period, and you don't need to pass urine every minute. You can store in the body for a longer period of time since it is less toxic. And the next is that it requires less amount of water for elimination. Last case we seen, 1 gram of ammonia requires half a liter. Here you see 1 gram of urea requires only 50 ml of water, which means water elimination is also very less. Therefore the terrestrial organisms, terrestrial means living on the land, so the terrestrial for the organisms which live on the land, water is very scarce, right? For everywhere we can see save water, save water. Why to save water? Because we have less water uh, for consumption, right? Therefore we need to save water. We cannot pass all the water away, like the organisms living on the water. Therefore the terrestrial organisms, they have to save water, and for them urea is the best option, because 1 gram of urea only requires 50 ml. 50 ml is far less than half liter, right? 50 ml is far less than 500 ml. 500 ml and 50 ml, it is very less. So uh, the we what to say, the advantages of excreting urea over ammonia is that one is so if it is asked what is the advantage of excreting urea over ammonia, the first is it is less toxic. Okay. Second is it can be stored in the body for longer
Store
period. Third is it requires less amount of water.
less amount.
Less amount of water than water is, that is 1 gram, that is the measurement. Okay. So okay, now how is urea synthesized? For ammonia, all of you have seen ammonia is synthesized. Ammonia is formed by oxidative deamination of amino acids. So the amino acids which are not required in our body, from them those amino group separates and they form ammonia, right? No, so now how urea is formed? Actually, what happens is uh, in all the organisms, in all organisms, in every organism, whether it may be terrestrial organisms, whether it may be or aquatic organisms, means whether it is ureotelic or whether it is ammonotelic, whether it is uricotelic, in all the organisms, initial step is formation of ammonia. Okay, so just listen it very carefully. Okay, in all organisms, whether it is ureotelic or ammonotelic, in ammonotelic we have already learned, right? Ammonia is formed, but in ureotelic also ammonia is formed. First step is ammonia is formed. Ammonia is, how is ammonia formed? Ammonia is formed by oxidative deamination. So in ureotelic organisms also ammonia is formed. First step is already we have learned that is the first step in every organism, that is formation of ammonia. Now what happens in ureotelic organisms and uricotelic organisms? Ammonia is converted into urea and uric acid respectively. Am I making sense? So in the ureotelic organisms, what happens? First of all, ammonia is formed in our body. Ammonia is formed in their body also. The fishes and everywhere, ammonia is formed. Then this ammonia is converted into urea. Why it is converted into urea? So that it can be excreted with less amount of water. They can conserve water. For ureotelic organisms, since they are terrestrial, the main purpose is to lose less water, conserve water. The main purpose is to conserve water, to excrete the nitrogenous waste with less amount of water, right? Therefore, in ureotelic organisms, what happens? Ammonia is formed by the same process, that is oxidative deamination. Same process, ammonia is formed. Then in ammonotelic organisms, ammonia is excreted, right? But the next step, that is ureotelic organisms, what happens? That ammonia, when it is formed, it is converted into urea. Okay, so ammonia is converted into urea, and in the case of ureotelic organisms. So the process of conversion of ammonia into urea, that is the process in which urea is produced from ammonia, is known as urea cycle. Okay, the conversion of ammonia takes place, right? The conversion of ammonia to urea takes place, and the process or the cycle in which urea is formed from ammonia is known as urea cycle, or it is also known as ornithine cycle. Okay, you will have a paper, biochemistry, in like third sem, I guess. Second or third sem, you'll get a paper uh, dedicated to biochemistry. You will learn about urea cycle there. Okay, in this chapter, don't need to know in depth about urea cycle. Okay, but just remember that conversion of ammonia into urea, that a cycle is there, and that cycle is known as urea cycle, also known as ornithine cycle. Am I clear? Am I audible? Please respond. Please,
Yes, ma'am.
please respond. Okay. So you don't need to learn in depth about urea cycle. Just remember this. This the cycle that produces ammonia, that converts ammonia to urea, is known as urea cycle. So the production of urea takes place in a urea cycle. So name itself suggests, right, urea cycle, and also known as ornithine cycle. So once again, I'm repeating: in ureotelic organisms, ammonia is formed, but ammonia is then converted into urea by urea cycle. Okay, and synthesis, where does urea synthesis takes place? Urea synthesis takes place in the liver. In the case of higher organisms like human beings, in case of human beings, in the liver, and in case of fishes, and in case of lower organisms, in the uh, in everywhere except brain, heart, all those uh, organs, except all those organs, maximum of the tissues, in all the tissues, urea synthesis takes place. Okay, but in the case of human beings, urea synthesis takes place only in the liver. So here you can see the reaction. I'll just in the urea cycle, it is a long process. Okay, it is drawn in the form of a circle like this, the
Which
form of a circle,
which
and it is a
test
long
you are
process.
the use
Yes,
plus tissue plus
you want to say something? Yes, I'm. You're not audible. Are you listening, guys?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Someone is telling something. I'm not doing what.
Yeah, someone was
Yes.
saying something.
Yes.
Cannot hear, but
Okay. Okay. So urea cycle, it is a long process. Okay, that we don't need. But this is the overall this is the reaction which takes place. So what happens is that ammonia, this is the formula for ammonia, NH3. So ammonia is made to react with carbon dioxide, CO2. This is carbon dioxide. So ammonia is made to react with carbon dioxide and this becomes urea. This is urea. NH2, then we wrote like this bracket, then again 2, right? So there are two amino acid amino groups, and there is CO. And so this is the formula for urea. So urea is formed and water is formed. Okay. So when ammonia reacts with carbon dioxide, it forms urea, then water. So basically, the whole it is a long process. Even though in intermediate there are many steps, but overall you can just see that when ammonia is formed, it reacts with carbon dioxide and it forms urea. Okay. So urea, it is little bit less toxic. Okay, and those organisms which cannot excrete ammonia, means the terrestrial organisms, they convert ammonia into urea and they excrete urea. Okay, so examples are terrestrial organisms. What are the terrestrial organisms? Main is human beings. Human beings are there. Then there are aquatic mammals. Mammals means the whales and seals. The exception is there. Okay, normally all the aquatic organisms, they are ammonotelic, but there are exceptions in the aquatic mammals. Those are whales and seals, whales, seals, etc. These are also ureotelic since they are mammals, no? And there are desert mammals like camels, kangaroo, rats, etc. And the fishes like sharks, rays, and skates. These are also, these are excluding and means almost all the aquatic organisms are ammonotelic, but this fishes and this aquatic mammals, these are excluded from that category. Okay, these are ureotelic. This sharks, rays, skates, and whales and seals. These are ureotelic, and human beings and desert mammals like camels. When it is as examples, you can just pick anything from here and write. Okay, don't have to segregate into groups. Okay, so this is all about ureotelic. Okay. So ureotelism, what was there? The nitrogenous waste is urea. Then the organisms which excrete urea is known as ureotelis. Why urea excretion is a better option than ammonia? Because it is less toxic.
Because it
It
is
can be
less
stored in the
toxic.
body for longer period. Yes, and it requires less amount of water. Very easy. The main thing is ammonotelic. Ammonotelic, if you remember, others are easy only. Okay, and then urea synthesis. So urea synthesis, what happens? The ammonia that is formed in our body by oxidative deamination. So ammonia is converted into urea by urea cycle. So how it is formed? What happens in the body? The ammonia, it reacts with carbon dioxide and formed urea. And the synthesis of urea, it takes place in the liver in case of higher organisms. So this is how urea is formed in our body. And examples are human beings, aquatic mammals, desert mammals, and elasmobranchs. You can pick examples from here and write. So now dual excretion. It is a part of this one only. But what is dual excretion? Dual excretion means there are some organisms which excrete both. For example, there are some organisms which can excrete ammonia also, urea also. Okay, two types of nitrogenous waste. The organisms which can excrete two types of nitrogenous waste, those organisms will fall under dual excretion. Dual means two, right? So those organisms will fall under dual excretion. Don't confuse it. Okay, there are some organisms which can excrete two different nitrogenous waste. Those organisms falls under this category. Okay, here you can see the definition. Some animals perform two modes of excretion known as dual excretion. Dual means two. We'll look at the examples now. Tadpole. Okay, what is tadpole? Have you
Say
seen tadpole? Have you seen?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
it is the larval stage of frog. Tadpoles grow and becomes frog. All of you know, all of you have seen, I guess. So what happens is that uh, in the larval stage, that is when the tadpoles are there, tadpoles, they are amonotelic because tadpoles live in the water, right? So since they live in the water, they were amonotelic in the larval stage. When the tadpoles are there, tadpoles are amonotelic because they live in the water, they are aquatic and they have plenty of water, right? But as soon as metamorphosis takes place, means growth takes place, right? Tadpole becomes adult, and adult stage is known as frog, right? When tadpoles become frogs, they become ureotelic. Okay, when frogs were small, that is the tadpole, they were amonotelic since they live in the water. But when they grew up and when metamorphosis took place and when they become frog, they will be ureotelic. Fine, understood. Tadpoles are amonotelic, whereas frogs is a ureotelic. Ureotelic means when it grows up, it lives in the land, therefore it is ureotelic. Then same case with earthworm. Earthworm actually not the same case actually. When earthworm lives in the water, sometimes there is for earthworm there is, they live in a environment where there is plenty of water. When earthworm stays in the environment where there is plenty of water, it shows amonotalism. And when it is it stays in places where there is less water, it shows ureotalism. Means same as tadpole, but from all through the life. Tadpole, it was like when it is small, it shows monotelilism. When it becomes a frog, it is ureotelic. But earthworm, it is not like that. Earthworm throughout their entire life, it's not like larval stage or like that. But throughout the entire life, whenever earthworm stays in the water, it shows monotelilism. Whenever it is out of the water, it is ureotelic. Okay. Then
Yes, ma'am.
there is lungfish and xenophas. This is a toad. Toad means same like a frog, a little bit different, but almost the same like frog. So it's same for this also. When it is in the water, these two, when they are in the water, they show ammonotelialism, or they are ammonotelic organisms. And when these undergo hibernation. Okay, what is hibernation? You know hibernation? Snakes go for why don't
Yes,
you find snakes in the winter? Snakes always
because
come.
they
Yes, because
hibernate
they hibernate.
inside. Yes, yes.
Yes,
They
inside
don't come
holes
out.
and like right there.
Inside
Yes,
holes. Yes.
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 And there are many hibernating birds also. For example, during Assamese people will know during Bihu season, there is one bird, right? April, during the month of April, there is a bird, kuli, right? So those birds also hibernates. That's why they come in a particular season only. It doesn't stay the entire season here. That's why we get to hear their voice only in that particular season, in the month of, I don't know, April. Bihu in the month of April, I guess. I don't know. April. Yes, April. April. Yes, April. April. So in the month of April, we used to hear that particular bird. So that hibernation is there. So lungfish and xenopus, they go for hibernation in the mud. Okay, in the mud they go for hibernation, and when they go for hibernation, they show ureotelism, or they become ureotelic. But otherwise, when they live in the water, they are amonotelic. Okay, then crocodiles are there. So what happens to crocodiles? Crocodiles, they live in the water, right? But they also can live outside water. But when crocodiles live in the water, they are amonotelic. But when they are kept outside water for like a longer period of time, if you are keeping the crocodile outside of water, they won't die. Right? They can live outside water. And when they are kept outside water, they have to preserve the water already that is already inside the body, right? So therefore, then when the crocodile is kept outside of water for a longer period of time, they show ureotelism. Okay. So these are the examples of dual excretion. Means two types of excretion is seen. Two types of nitrogenous waste are excreted. Those are tadpole. Tadpole frog is little bit different because it was the larval stage, then it became adult. But for other groups, this earthworm, lungfish, xenopus, and crocodiles, for them, it's not like larval season like that. It becomes, it means it continues throughout their life. Whenever they are in the water, they show ammonotalism. Whenever they are outside of water, they show uretelism.
It.
Okay. So next is urecotelism. So any doubts from ureotelism? Any doubts till now? If you have any doubts, all of you, you have given your roll. If you have any doubts, you ask. I'll just take the roll numbers from there. If you have any doubts, just ask. Because the meeting will automatically end after 45 minutes. That is the thing. It will automatically end after 45 minutes. That's why I need to take the attendance. Everyone, have you texted? Here. Okay. Any doubts, you just ask. Ask. We'll not teach. Will not go. The next part will discuss in the next class. You can ask if there are any doubts. And one thing, okay, from next class, no one will be allowed to enter late. No one will be allowed to enter late. Only 5 minutes. 5 minutes after starting the class, now someone is in the waiting lobby. See, the classes is almost over. He came to just give the attendance. This is not done. From next class onwards, uh, only 5 minutes after the class starts. After that, I will close the group. No one can enter. I'll close the means this one group, and no one can enter. And after that,
Ma'am,
don't
ma'am,
say that we can't enter and all that. Yes, yes.
ma'am, ইয়াতে chat boxৰ এটা কল্যাণ হাজৰিকা নেকি সি ৰোল নম্বৰটো 51 দিছে কিন্তু ৰোল নম্বৰটো 51 মোৰ হয়
কাৰ হয় এইটো তেন্তে? কল্যাণ হাজৰিকা আছে নাই ইয়াতে? Where is Kalyan Hajarika? K11 K. আছে তো? Just speak up. Kalyan Hajarika. তোমাৰ নাম কি? তুমি যেটা কলা?
মানসজ্যোতি ভাগৱতী
মানসজ্যোতি ভাগৱতী। তুমি দিছাতো নাম্বাৰ ইয়াত?
দিছো মেম
Okay, this Kalyan Hajarika
দিছে মানে 51
51 হিও দিছে। Okay. তোমাৰটো যাব, হি তাৰ নিজৰটো নিদিলে তোমাৰটো দিছে, তোমাৰটো যাব আৰু। Okay, it's fine. Then no need. He is not speaking up. You will not get attendance. What is there? Okay. In case of any doubts, you ask.